Welcome to the Fat Fueled Family Podcast, where every week we talk about things like nutrition, training,
how to live a healthy and active lifestyle with your little ones, peaceful parenting, education,
and of course, mindset.
Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Keto Counterculture, at Fat Fueled Mom, and at Fat Fueled Kids, and search for Fat Fueled Family on YouTube.
To stay up to date with everything we're doing, sign up with your email at www.fatfueled.family and check out our blog for workouts, meal ideas, and all the other cool stuff we love to talk about.
Don't forget to hit subscribe.
What's up, everybody? This is Danny, and I wanted to just give you guys a little disclaimer before we start this show. We realize that this is a family show. This episode contains graphic content as well as graphic language, and we could have edited it, but we felt that it would have taken power away from the story. That being said, if you are with your children, usually when you listen to this podcast, you may want to listen to it alone because of the subjects covered, but the story is extremely powerful, and we're really happy with it, and we really want to share this story with you because we think that it can provide a lot of value. So without further ado, here is our episode with Robby Donofrio.
All right, welcome to the Fat Fueled Family Podcast. I am Danny Vega, and I'm joined by my beautiful wife.
Oh my gosh, every time you're not going to say my name?
Well, I'll say your name next time. If you're getting sick of it, I'll say your name.
Because you always look at me too, like with the weirdest face. It's me, guys.
It's me. So we have a guest on today, but before we talk to our guest, I just wanted to share a few things with you guys. It's been a week. Last Tuesday, a week ago from today, we were on our way to Jiu Jitsu, and on our way there, I got into my first ever crash accident. And since I do things right, I do them the right way.
Get it done.
Totally totaled our van. Total loss. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, needless to say, there was no Jiu Jitsu that day.
Yes.
And you know, it's just been a very challenging week for us. And then on top of that, we've had technical issues today, but Maura and I were talking right before we got on about we have the joy jar, and it's this jar that we put little things every time there's something that we're grateful for, we put it in there, and then on New Year's Eve we open up the joy jar and share all the things that we wrote this year. And there's a lot to be grateful this year. There's a lot to be grateful for. We've had, but the main thing that Maura said that I thought was very interesting, and it's keeping me in gratitude, was that she was talking about this has been a year for a lot of gratitude and a lot of growth. And why do you say growth, my love? Why do you?
Because that's what comes with challenges.
Yeah.
Growth.
So.
Well, not always. I mean, it depends how you
view
approach the situation, but it's been a year.
It's been a year, but I really appreciate seriously what you said, because it helped me reframe this whole situation. Because if you're a human being, you'll know that what ends up happening when more than one thing that's challenging, or more than one thing that doesn't go your way, when they get strung together, you start to go and inside your head, and you're like, hey, and you start to ask yourself why, and your inner baby comes out and starts to cry. And as pathetic as it is, because it's absolutely utterly pathetic, I succumb to that, and my wife succumbs to it sometimes. Our kids succumb to it. But the beauty is that I have a partner who is 100%, completes my little puzzle. And, I was starting to get angry and upset about things and she was
it's usually me too. So that's the funny part. And I'm like, I know this is weird, but you're being a little negative.
Yeah. And I was like,
I'm on a good wavelength today, and he's
not. She's super chill right now. I don't know what she did before we got on the air here. There's no funny smells coming out of the house. I don't know what she did, but she's definitely super chill, and I'm really grateful for it. So I want to tell you, I'm grateful for you on the air, because it's quick. It happens quickly. If you just change your perspective, it happens quickly. And if you stay in gratitude, like I talked about on the Ketogenic Athlete podcast a few weeks ago, I'm saying a few weeks ago, but it was really 2 days ago. But by the time this comes out, it's a few weeks ago. was on Thanksgiving, we challenged people to find gratitude in every challenge, and that was like, if your father-in-law, tried to make you feel like less of a man, if your mother-in-law was commenting about how you're overweight, or if you overcooked your turkey, or if you whatever, anything that you do, there's always good in every situation. Even if your brother died, even if, I'm telling you, there is good in every situation. As absurd as it sounds, you can find good in every situation. You don't have to say something like a cop out, like, oh, at least I'm alive. No, you can actually say like, okay, today I had audio issues with our earlier podcast that we recorded. Well, that means that I had a learning experience, and that I should be better prepared, and maybe have plan C when plan B doesn't work. So anyways, we have a guest on, so I don't want to have him waiting on too long. And I want to first introduce him. This is a very interesting person, very cool guy. I find myself, like, if I'm at jiu-jitsu and I'm like end up in his office, I get sucked in, and we end up talking the whole time. So his name is Robby, and here's, correct me if I'm wrong, because I pronounce your last name Donofrio, but someone said Donofrio. So is it Donofrio?
You're actually right.
Which one? The first one or the second one?
Donofrio.
Oh, Donofrio.
Yeah, the first one. The way,
okay.
Yeah, the way you're pronouncing it is right. Most people don't, though. Most people say Donofrio or DeFornio or some other kind of.
Well, there's. I knew a Donofrio, but I don't want to sell you short, man. So let me tell them a little bit about you, because and of course you're going to give them the full story, and I love this story. So, Robby Donofrio, he is the founder and head instructor at Gracie Brandon. He received his black belt in 2014 under Rob Kahn, who was the first black belt under Royce Gracie, the first champion of the UFC. If you guys remember the old school UFC, when there were no weight classes, Royce would get his butt kicked for a few minutes and then be very, very vicious in submitting people, even if they tapped out. Anyways, Robby was formerly part of the U.S. Air Force. He's now a pro MMA fighter and a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu competitor who made a name for himself within the Brazilian Jiu Jitsu community by taking first place at the 2012 ADCC trials. He's competed against and defeated some of the biggest names in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Outside of competition, he's known for his prestigious coaching abilities, which I've seen firsthand, having coached some of the best grapplers in the world. He takes pride in teaching jiu-jitsu in a way that caters to all types of students, from white belt to black, with the intention of making each and every student the best version of themselves on and off the mat. We want to welcome to the show, Robby Donofrio. Say what's up, man.
Hey, what's up, man? That was an awesome intro. You definitely did your research.
Oh, thanks, man. between offline research of us talking and online research, I like to be prepared.
Yeah.
So no, we're really happy to have you, man, because it's interesting how jiu-jitsu is growing, but still, you and I are very similar in the sense that, like, we start to like really get like obsessed with something, and then we're like, well, everybody needs to do this now. Everyone in the world,
every single person.
Yeah, I definitely feel that way. Like, I get sucked into anything that I end up liking, and it's one of those things where, if you don't love it, you're not going to retain the knowledge of it. Yeah. But for me, when I started jiu-jitsu, you taught me a move. I loved it so much that it wouldn't leave my brain. And I was able to, just retain that knowledge super easy. And that goes for anything that I do that I kind of get obsessed with, and like you said, I want to pass it on to everyone. And what jiu-jitsu saved my life. 100%. Saved my life, and I love, and that's where my passion comes from. It's not just about breaking bones, breaking arms, choking people. Yeah. I mean, that is essentially what we're doing, but we're solving a problem when we're doing jiu-jitsu. You're presenting a problem, and I'm solving it through through the techniques and the strategies that we learn through jiu-jitsu. And that is a model, and I've modeled my life after that, because before that for me, it was a lot of, drinking and drugging and debauchery. And I didn't know how to live. I didn't know how to, get through struggles or get through, challenges. But then through jiu-jitsu, I was able to learn to work hard and accomplish, And I think the reason why is because I just fell in love with it so easy.
Yeah.
And luckily those lessons were learned. I learned those lessons through jiu-jitsu, and it's filtered into the rest of my life. But yeah, I know that you have, similar situations where you messed up in the past.
Yep.
Just like me. And we've talked about that a lot, addiction is a big thing with me. And, I was able to get past that. And a lot of it had to do with learning jiu-jitsu and my mentor, Rob Kahn, who believed in me, because before that, nobody believed in me.
So one of the first things before we continue is you said something that we talk about a lot, and it's the fact that no one really when people learn, they only learn when it's internally, when they have an internal motivation. And so this is why you and I don't know, we can't just take a piece of paper and start doing trigonometry, because we don't care about trigonometry. If we were passionate about it, we would be like posting on our Instagram all about the newest trigonometry crap.
Yeah.
But we're not
the best at it.
Yeah, and we would be the best, or die trying. So, what you said about, man, because people get there through different avenues, and I want people to know that, and I'm talking as someone who has not yet started. I just paid Robby for the year yesterday, so I will be starting next week after we get back from Thanksgiving, or after whatever. This is, by the way, guys, that Thanksgiving happened already, whatever.
Yeah, when this comes out.
But before we get into your story, because I want you to go all the details you want to give. I want to be fair to you first, because I didn't tell you about this before we got on the air. We always ask one question, and this question, you can think about it from a personal standpoint, or you can think about it from a worldview. And that is, what is the most critical problem that you're currently trying to solve?
Oh boy. I am trying to, at the moment, be injury free and compete at the highest level again in jiu-jitsu, and make an even bigger name for myself. My confidence in this is bigger and higher than it's ever been, and I 100% believe that I'm the best in the world at this sport. And right now, because I'm getting a little bit older, injuries plague me.
Yeah, so you just had that meniscus tear, and you're gonna get that fixed up.
Yeah, next week I'm getting the meniscus done, but I've been staying in shape through it. I just was I went to Anytime Fitness today. I did the bike for an hour.
Oh, so important.
I had my heart rate up to like 180 the whole time. Then I did some lifting. I go hard when I go to the gym. I don't like to do worky workouts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's with this group of 3 people here, we can all relate that we do things hard. We do it the right way. We don't go halfway.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do things hard, and then we feel things hard. I mean, at least I do.
Yes.
Oh yeah, all of us.
I do too.
Yeah, we're like amplified people.
Yeah, exactly. I like that. I like that term. I've never heard that.
You got to write that down.
Oh yeah, amplified.
Because Mama and I have this thing, and this is why we love each other so much, because we feel like you're either awake or you're not awake. And it doesn't mean that you're not awake because you don't know about the newest conspiracy. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, like, if you don't,
passionate.
Yeah, if you don't listen to a song and it rips your soul apart. Like, like, that
you have
song.
No soul.
Yeah, you have, like, where are you? Like, wake up. You want to just shake people and wake them up, Yeah.
I mean, one of the things I can't relate to people who just kind of cruise through life. They got the 9 to 5, they come home, have a couple drinks, go to sleep, wake up, go to work, come home, have a couple drinks, go to sleep.
Just
that's so much
depressing.
of America.
Yeah, and just
it is.
saying that.
I know. That's the way I'm saying it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
but that's exactly how it is.
He was talking about that yesterday. Like, we were talking about this exact subject.
Well, we talk about that all the time.
Yeah,
just like, what are people doing? They're just doing, like, you're not really thinking your mind. It's being mindless too. Like, that's why we're always talking about mindfulness. It's like, you're just mindless, going through motion.
Well, Right. The people that are content with that, it just boggles my mind. I cannot relate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't understand, because everything I've done my whole life has been through passion, you know, you know, even before, even when it was, you know, doing drugs and drinking, it was like, okay, I'm doing
best.
it the hardest. Yeah. I'm the best drug addict there is.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you know, there's a few exercises that someone could do to see, like, okay, am I asleep or am I awake? And I think two of them are, the first one is look at your life like a story. If I were to turn to page 1 versus page 37, am I going to find the same thing? Am I going to say the same words over and over and over?
Yeah.
And that's what you defined as, you know, waking up every day, going to work, having a few drinks. And the other one would be to think about your death and think about what will people write about you in your eulogy. Oh, so-and-so's a nice person. They showed up on time. They were at work.
They were at work
like,
on time every day.
What are you gonna leave? What is your legacy? Yeah. So the passion, there's no shortage of passion here. So I definitely
I knew it as soon as I saw you guys. I knew you guys were like that.
You can do it because you know
you look like a superhero. And I was like, damn, this guy is jacked. But I knew that the only reason that you can be that way is because you work super hard at it, and you have to be passionate to you know, to have the physique you have.
Appreciate
you have
that,
to be
man.
super passionate about it. You know, it's funny because before I did jiu-jitsu, I was big into, you know, bodybuilding and lifting. I wanted to lift the heaviest weight. I wanted to, you know, have the biggest biceps, biggest chest, which is cool. But, you know, there was this part of me in the back of my head that kind of thought because I was lifted the most weight and because I was the biggest, that I was the toughest.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. That big people need to listen.
Right.
That's
the
true.
Big guys.
Yeah.
Because I said that the other day when I was writing myself a letter on Instagram, like for everyone to see, like, hey, buddy, you know, it's really cool to be big, but you know that if someone takes you down, you're gonna lose a lot more than your what did I say? Like, you're gonna lose a lot more than your
like ego.
Than your ego. Yeah, you're gonna get hurt. Yeah. You know.
Yep. And I figured that out when I found jiu-jitsu. It was amazing to me that, you know, this guy Joey, was a brown belt at the time when I started, and you know, he was 130 pounds soaking wet.
Wow.
And just kicked my ass.
Yeah.
And I was like, but before that, even, you know, when I started jiu-jitsu, I don't know if you want me to get into my story.
Well, yeah. You know what? Let's talk about this personal story. Let's talk about what led you to jiu-jitsu and how this has shaped who you are as a father, as a coach, as a business owner.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Well, if we want to get, you know, I could start early. You know, I grew up in Staten Island, New York, and I grew up there. You know, Italian. Everybody's Italian on Staten Island, you know, Donofrio.
Yeah.
And a lot of, you know, most people were Catholic, you know, Catholic, New York.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, my grandparents found this church, and, you know, I grew up in this church. It wasn't Catholic. It was like a non-denominational type Christian church, but it was extremely cult-like.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I grew up in this church. I was there 7 days a week.
Oh, wow.
You know, it was a lot of negative stuff when it came to that, because they fear and you know, always, you know, this man in the sky is always looking over you and judging you and making sure you're doing the right thing, and if you're not, he's judging you, and if you don't do the right thing, you're going to burn for eternity. And these are things I was told when I was 4 or 5 years old.
I was raised Catholic. Same. Yeah.
Well,
really?
Yeah. Well, the Catholic, you know, the Catholic church that I was raised in was very similar to that
it's
too.
Very
but
similar to that.
Some of these like more, you know, extreme fundamentalist religions could definitely they choose how they want to frame things. They choose what they want to read in the Bible, and then they instill fear in you, and they're very legalistic. So that could be
like a fear.
That could be very disease ridden.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was, it was terrifying for me growing up. And, I developed definitely some, the depression and issues like that. Not getting too much into it. My mother had a lot to deal with as far as depression, anxiety, and, we've had, suicide attempts and things like that. So when I was a kid, there was just a little bit of chaos.
Yeah.
And, but overall, I found a group of friends at a young, at 13, 14, 15 years old. And, that age you start making friends. And, I had a girlfriend, and my mother, got out of her depression because she found Jesus. At first it was my grandparents that took us to church. And then, my mother then found Jesus, and she got better through it. And she did, because I believe that belief is a powerful thing. Just
and the teachings of Jesus are different than a church like that. That's going to be trying to scare you. It's a very, very different message.
Different.
Yeah. And I mean, it helped in ways to my family, but then at the same time, it became very legalistic and very judgmental. We weren't allowed to, we weren't allowed to dance. We weren't allowed to, no alcohol, no nothing. It was just very strict. And we were in our own little community of people, and everybody else on the outside were secular,
dividing you from,
very dividing. And when you do that to a kid, it can make you feel separate, and I know addicts talk about that a lot, how, you grow up, you don't feel like you're part of the team, you're part of the human race almost. You're just like this person who feels as though they think differently or something.
Yeah.
And, but, I started getting away from the religion, at 15, you start smoking a little bit of pot, it wasn't a huge big deal, but then my family decided to move us to, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's Amish country.
Oh, wow. Well, we were just in Ohio in Amish country.
That's
right.
What do you call them? They're called the Mennonite, right?
Yeah, well, there's Mennonites, and then there's also Amish, and there's levels to it. Some of these Amish people, they don't even look in the mirror because no technology, and
pictures.
Some of them are nothing. Yeah,
that's crazy.
It depends on how strict they are. Some Amish people watch TV. Some Mennonite, Mennonite is like a less strict version of Amish, But, that wasn't even a problem. The problem was the culture change, the culture shock.
Yeah.
Going from New York City to this, in New York, my high school had 8,000 kids in it. It's to this day the third most populated high school in the country.
That's crazy.
And it was treated more like a college. You kind of came and went as you pleased. If you didn't go to class, you didn't pass. And when I went to Pennsylvania, it was like going on a TV show. I felt like I was in a TV show. It was really odd. They'd take your tractor to school day. It was a huge culture shock. But this is where my New York money goes a long way in Amish country. So we had this enormous home. We had 9 bedrooms, 10 bathrooms. It was just this crazy huge house, which is something I don't always recommend for families because I didn't, I'd go weeks without seeing my parents.
Oh, wow.
We lived in this huge house where I had the basement and my parents were on the 3rd floor, and we just didn't cross paths.
Wow.
But it really affected me in a big way. I got extremely depressed. And started doing drugs really bad. Cocaine, weed, you name it. If it would make me feel different, I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And as a teenager, I was expelled from that high school twice, for having anger outbursts and for just being incredibly defiant. I was angry. I have suffered from a severe problem with being angry. I didn't want to live there. And, at that point, anything my parents told me, I didn't listen to because fuck you for making me live here. It was.
Yeah, because you
like
were moved there at 13 or 14. That's a very
that's rough.
15. Either way, that's a rough. Very important age,
That's a very
man.
rough time, yeah.
Yeah, it was. And, my parents to this day, my parents regret it. They regret the religion part of it mostly. But through that, so I was expelled from high school. I ended up getting my high school diploma through this school for bad kids, where I belong. It was just kind of that narrative.
Opportunity school. That's what they used to call it. Opportunity school in Miami.
Danny almost went to one.
Yeah. The only reason I didn't go is because I got kicked out of my middle school too. So we'll talk about that.
Right.
I went into a private school and I took the exam. I was a smart kid and I got in. So that was that.
You went to a private, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did this school for a couple of days, got my diploma. I literally got my diploma. I was highly addicted to cocaine at this point.
Wow.
And I got my high school diploma though, somehow, my father paid a lot of money for me to do that. Yeah. And I walked right into I needed to stop. I knew I needed to stop doing cocaine. I knew it. Like it was so bad, and I know you have experience with that, so you can relate there. Yeah, but I went right into the recruiter. I went to the Air Force recruiter place and took my ASVAB. And then I was like, they're like, well, what do you want to do? I said, whatever is the quickest, whatever will get me out of this shithole town the quickest. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks later, I was shipped off to San Antonio to go to basic training as a munitions systems specialist. So basically I built bombs and missiles and things like that, but nothing you can use on the outside. But for a little while, I went in and, I got my shit together a little bit. And then one day, I was only 19, at this point I was 20, I think. And I was hanging out at a friend's house. We couldn't go out to drink. I was too young. So we would just do these house parties all the time. So I'm in the Air Force. I'm drinking at a house party, which is something I drank a lot because we couldn't do drugs. So what do? You drink. And I didn't even realize I was an addict. I didn't know anything about that.
Of course.
So you're just, all I knew is get fucked up if you feel bad. That's all I knew. So I'm in the Air Force. I'm at this house. Long story short, a girl called me and said to meet her at a Waffle House to pick her up because she's with some people she didn't feel comfortable with. So, and I'm going to tell this story kind of fast because there's a lot to it. But I went, and then it turns out the people she was with, I knew them. And the guy takes a CD case out when they had CDs back then. It had lines on it, it had some cocaine lines on it. And he was like, here, man, take a hit. I hadn't done cocaine in a few years because at this point I was in the Air Force for a couple of years. And I'm drunk. Of course I'm going to do it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, go
I mean, it's like
I think I know where this is going. I can almost bet where this is going.
Yeah, I know. I've been there.
Well, so I did the cocaine, and then I left that girl there at the Waffle House. I left with those people. We had a whole night of doing cocaine and drinking, and you know how much you can drink when you do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
tolerance goes up.
Yeah.
About 4 days for me.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of the people I was with doing drugs with that night were in the Air Force as well. So they were in my squadron. So it was like kind of on my team, so to speak. And, we did that on a Friday. Monday morning, 5 a.m., the whole squadron had to go in for a urinalysis test.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was like, fuck. So went and took the P test. They say cocaine stays in your system for 3 days, and it was like 2.5 days.
Yeah.
And, so I took the P test. Half the people I was with took the P test. We had to wait 3 weeks for the results to come back. So we're all scared. I'm scared. I lived off base at this point in an apartment on the beach in Fort Walton Beach, which is over on the Panhandle near like Pensacola, Panama City.
Okay.
And, 3 weeks later, almost to the day, I wake up in the middle of the night and this guy, Shane, this guy that I did cocaine with, has a gun to my head.
Holy crap.
Wow. And he's like, and he wakes me up in the middle of the night with a gun to my head. You fucking ratted on me. And he's messed up on crack or coke or whatever. Long story short, I took the gun from him.
Wow.
Like grabbed it. And I was like, oh, it was crazy. And he ran out of my apartment. So I call my first sergeant. My first sergeant, Sergeant Field, is like, that's, if you're in the military, first sergeant's almost like the principal. If you have an issue, you call your first sergeant. So I called my first sergeant. Shane came in with a gun. He goes, come into the office. I go into the office. He says, you tested positive for cocaine. He's like, why do you think he did that? I don't know. I have no idea why he did that.
No idea. No responsibility.
And then he goes, well, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
No, yeah, exactly. And he's like, well, you know, you tested positive for cocaine in your urinalysis. He's like, why do you think that happened? I was like, I have no idea. That's weird.
I have no idea how I got there.
Keep going. Keep going. It'll go away if you keep going.
Exactly. So they were like, well, now you have to move back on base. You can't live in your apartment. We're taking all your rank from you, and you're going to get court-martialed.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, Jesus, this is terrible. So I move back on base. At this point, nobody was allowed to speak to me because I was under investigation. And so I lost all my friends immediately, which taught me a lesson because, you know, everybody likes to form these tribes. As human beings, we like to form these tribes, and we get like really passionate about, you know, we're part of this team, part of that team, you know, but sometimes, but until somebody, you know, makes a bad decision or gets fucked up, and then all of a sudden I don't even know you anymore.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's kind of what happened. I was alone. I had to wait to get court-martialed. And what was crazy is they kept paying me as if I lived off base. So, and I didn't say anything. It was a glitch in the system. So, because when you live off base, you get more money for housing. But when you live on base, you don't get that money. But they kept paying it to me. And I was just like, well, I'm getting kicked out anyway, whatever. I'll keep the money. And, so they would make me do details on the base because they kept having to pay me. So they would make me do, crazy shit, dig holes, you know, shred papers, things like that. And during that time, I met this girl who was also in trouble, and she would do these details with me. And she was a blue belt in jiu-jitsu.
Oh,
wow.
So yeah, we started dating, and, she would put me in these chokes and arm bars, and I was like, what the fuck? Because at this point I had gotten sober. The military sent me to 30-day inpatient rehab, and I learned that I was an addict. And I was like, geez, this is crazy. I never knew any of this stuff about myself. Yeah. So when I got out of rehab, you know, I started, you know, lifting weights again and getting jacked. And then I found this girl who was able to kick my ass. It was really like emasculating, but I got really intrigued and started watching the UFC a lot. Started watching all these, you know, old fights and jiu-jitsu matches. But during this time, you know, I was the troubled one. I was the one that was in trouble. So anytime and they had to find stuff for me to do. So they would put different people in charge of me all the time, every single day. And they would make me do shit that was just crazy. It was ridiculous.
How long was this? Did they tell you when it was going to end, or was it just kind of?
Well, they didn't tell me. They didn't know. So, but 6 months in, somebody that was in charge of me for that day was like, "Hey, Sergeant Fields, your first sergeant, he wants to see your LES, which is your leave and earnings statement. It's like a pay stub."
Oh,
and man. It was for whatever reason. It wasn't because he wanted to see my money. He just wanted to see it. He needed like my social or something. So, the guy goes, I was like, "Hey man, I'm getting paid a lot more than I'm supposed to." So, you know, he's going to see that. And the guy goes, "Don't worry about it." He blacks out everything on my LES except for my social. I'm like, "Don't you think he's going to think that's like fucked up, or like, don't you think he's going to think that's suspicious?" And he goes, no, I'll take care of it. Next thing, so he goes up and gives my LES to the first sergeant. Next thing you know, I'm getting called into the office, and he's like, "Why did you black out all this stuff?" And I was like, "I didn't. He did." And he goes, "Well, looks like we're going to have to tack on grand larceny to the charge," because he printed out my other LES. The guy goes, "No, I didn't." He goes, when I said sorry, I was like, "He did it." And the guy goes, "No, he's lying. I didn't do it." Obviously, they believed him. And, I mean, I was treated terrible. Like, yeah, I did a bad thing, but they used me as an example to show how powerful the military is. When you're in the military, you're not part of the Constitution. You're under the UCMJ. They fucking own you. They could do whatever they want. So When so at this point, I was supposed to get court-martialed like a week later. And they go, nope, we got to tack on a new charge, grand larceny. So I had to wait another whole 6 months to go to court. Mind you, I was very angry at this point.
I'm sure.
These people would try to tell me what to do, and I would tell them to go fuck themselves. Similar to how I was in high school. It would go all the way up the chain to the commander who would have to tell me what to do, and then I'd have to do it. And then I would rebel, and they would write me up. They'd do these like LOR, letters of reprimand, every time I was defiant. But long story short, this is where I kind of believe in some, I lost all type of belief in any higher power at this point. I felt like a victim.
Yeah.
And, it was woe is me. And then this lawyer, I got a lawyer, they assigned me with JAG. And, the lawyer, I don't know if he was an angel or what, but he had it out for my first sergeant, and he wanted to help me.
Oh, wow.
For whatever reason. And, he didn't have to, he just could have went through the motions. But finally, my court date comes, and, they were telling me I was going to get 5 years, 5 to 10 years in prison for this.
Wow.
Because of how defiant I was. It was like I was given the middle finger to the government, telling them to go fuck themselves, do what you want, I don't care. I was just angry. And so this whole time I'm thinking I'm going to go to prison for 5 years. It was like it's a very shitty feeling to be in that limbo, that state of,
especially with the time passing. It's like you're already serving time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was worse. Yeah, that time in my life was worse than actually being in prison.
Wow.
So finally my court date comes, and it was insane. They go, okay, we'll do a pretrial agreement. So if you plead guilty to all the charges, then we'll only put you in jail for 16 months. But if you plead not guilty, and the judge sentences you to 5 years, you got to serve 5 years. So if the judge sentences you to 5 years and you agree to plead guilty to the pretrial agreement, you'll still only go for 16 months.
Okay.
So I agreed to do that. And, my lawyer puts my first sergeant on the stand. I mean, this is like you see in the movie. Like I did a little bit of cocaine, and the military went nuts as if I killed somebody. It was just unbelievable. Yeah. And they put him on the stand, and he goes, looks like you have a personal vendetta against Airman Donofrio. And looks like that because he pulled out all the LORs, all the letters of reprimand. It was a stack of about 200 of them. I got one or two every single day.
Wow.
So one time, and me and that girl Laura, they made us shred papers. So they would put us in this room, and there was boxes to the ceiling of classified documents that we want, and it was like a little shredder. They're like, shred all these papers, So that was one of the details. So, like when you're under that type of duress, like that type of stress, you go a little crazy.
Yeah.
Like you do things you wouldn't normally do. So what we did was we locked ourselves in there. We took all the boxes and barricaded ourselves in there for an entire day. And they couldn't get in, and they were trying to get us out. We were just laughing our asses off because this was the only enjoyment. At this point, it's the only enjoyment I had in my life. It was killing my self-esteem. Like, to the point where I felt like a piece of shit. I felt like I didn't, deserve happiness. And, you end up doing things, that are kind of out of your character. And, so we did some ridiculous things and got written up for them. And, so my lawyer, he pulls out the LORs and starts reading them to the courtroom. Because Airman Donofrio and Airman Tinker built a wall of boxes to barricade themselves in, and the courtroom starts laughing. And he pulls out the other LOR, and he's like, I had to, at one point, this guy tried to make me dig a hole 3 feet deep, 30 feet wide, 6 by 60 feet, and then fill it with sand with a shovel. And I told him to go fuck off. And it got to the point where the commander had to tell me to do it. And, it was crazy because I have these like benign cysts in my body. I don't know if you've ever.
Oh, like lipomas?
Yeah, like lipomas. Yeah,
I have those. I have the same ones.
Right. Yeah. Well, I had one on my hand, but like for my whole life. So the guy told me to dig, and I was like, "Ow, my hand hurts. I have this lump on my hand. I can't dig." It was a complete lie. I had the lump my whole life.
Yeah.
And but I went to the doctor, and I told the doctor, and he's like, "Well, we'll do surgery." So I was like, "Anything to not have to dig." And he wrote me a waiver that said no digging. But so I go back to work the next day, and they try to tell me to dig, and I like took the waiver and I crumpled it up and threw it at his face and said, "There's your digging." It was a complete utter defiance to the U.S. government. Like, yeah, I hated them. I was so pissed off because of what they were putting me through. After that, you realize, you have to take responsibility for what you did, no matter what the consequences.
Yeah.
But that came
later. It's a hard pill to swallow. Yeah.
Yeah, it was because, to me, the punishment didn't fit the crime.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it was really hard to deal with. And, so in court, oh, by the way, they did surgery on my hand, and this is, one of the reasons why I'm weary about government health care is because they put me under they put me under 6 times to do surgery on my hand for a lipoma.
All that is like a local injection, and you cut a little slit and they pop it right out. I've had it done. I had it done in high school, and I saw them. I'm watching them do it the whole time. That's really weird.
Yeah, well, they put me under 6 times. It was almost like they were trying to kill me. It felt that way. Yeah. But when you go under, it feels really damn good.
Oh,
they give you those drinks.
Fentanyl?
Or whatever. They give you the
milk of amnesia?
Yeah. Yeah, and then they prescribed me Percocets, and, I ended up getting kind of hooked on those, but that's just my addict behavior. But anything to not feel what I was feeling during that time. They did 6 surgeries on me, and I willingly did it. But back to the court, he read these LORs, letters of reprimands, out to the court, and made my first sergeant tried to interrupt him, and he goes, "I'm your captain. You need to shut your damn mouth." Like, he made my first sergeant look like a piece of shit, and lo and behold, the judge sentenced me to 9 months.
Oh, wow.
And everyone that I gave shit to for that entire year was so pissed off that I was only going away for 9 months. And what's so interesting is it was one of the happiest days of my life.
That's crazy.
When I got sentenced to go to prison for 9 months, I had a huge smile on my face, Wow. And anyway, so I go to jail, and this is different. I would have given anything to go to like a real prison, but this is a military prison. So it was much more like a boot camp style. Like, there's so many rules. Yeah. I ended up, at one point, I got into an altercation because if somebody hits you and you don't hit them back, you'll just get fucked with the whole time. So,
of course,
I ended up having to do solitary confinement for 2 months, where I was in a cell. I think it was, 10 feet by 6 feet.
That's horrible.
And they kept the lights on the entire time. They would not shut the lights off, and you weren't allowed to lay down until 9 p.m. And if you did lay down, you got another day.
That's terrible.
So the only thing I had was just me and the Bible. That was it. And, it's not something to where I found Jesus. So it's just, that's all I had, I read the entire Bible probably 6 times. Just, it makes you go insane. It really does.
Yeah, it just makes you.
And, they wanted to break me. They wanted to break me in there. And, long story short, I finally got out, which was also one of the happiest days of my life. And when I got out, I had no self-esteem whatsoever. I had nothing but the shirt on my back. And I had to move to Tampa because my parents ended up moving while I was in the service. They moved to Tampa, so I had to go, to my parents where they took care of me. So I went and moved there. I got stupid jobs. I worked at Home Depot. I worked at like United Rentals. I worked at all these stupid jobs that I fucking hated. Like, I am not a person that can sit in an office,
Hey everybody, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to let you guys know about a company we've been a fan of for over a year now. This is a really cool company because number one, they're convenient. They make some delicious products, and they were also so cool when Dean had the accident. They said this is a great care package. The boys love their products. We love their products. They're convenient, and that's Real Good Foods. Real Good Foods has chicken crust pizzas, cauliflower pizzas. They have these awesome enchiladas that the boys love. Good products, low carb, keto friendly. And if you see the comparison compared to actual other packaged foods, there's no comparison. So they have a store locator. They're available at places like Walmart and supermarkets. I've also seen them even at Vitamin Shop, which is pretty cool. And if you wanted to shop for them locally, you can look at the store locator online. But we have a code, and it's FatFueledFam, and that'll give you $10 off your order. So if you're in a time pinch and you don't have time to cook yourself a nice home cooked meal, definitely look into Real Good Foods. They get the Fat Fueled Family seal of approval. And without any further ado, back to our show.
So finally I went and I Googled jiu-jitsu. I wanted to try jiu-jitsu because I was into watching the UFC, and I went and found Gracie Tampa. Okay. I went in there. I remember.
Did you go to the one? Was it the one in Hyde Park?
No. This is back in 2006. Okay. And it was the only Gracie Tampa. It was on Nebraska Avenue in Fletcher.
Oh, okay. Up north.
Yeah. So that was the only gym that existed anywhere close. I mean, this is early in the sport.
Yeah.
And, man, we were sad. It's not like now, like you come into my gym now and it's like, everybody's nice and everybody's helpful. This is like savagery. We went in there and we fought. We learned how to fight. Like there's the art of jiu-jitsu, then there's MMA, and then there's kickboxing. We learned how to use jiu-jitsu to fight on the street, in the cage, whatever. But I had a knack for it. I went in there and I was like automatically good at it. Wow. And I absolutely loved it. I loved it. And about 3-4 months in, my instructor, Rob Kahn, comes to me and he goes, one day you're gonna make it to the ADCC championship. I was a white belt.
Wow.
And he goes, I believe in you. I think that you're one of the best students I've ever had.
Wow.
And I don't even think he remembers saying that to me. Wow. But I went home and cried because nobody believed in me ever in my whole life.
Wow.
No, never once did anyone say anything encouraging like that.
Wow.
And it hit me like a ton of bricks. And it's one of the main reasons I'll never leave him as an instructor. He'll always be my mentor, no matter what he does or says. Like it changed my life. Just those words, that one sentence, it made me. I had a girlfriend at the time. I left her.
Wow.
And I did jiu-jitsu for 12 hours a day, every single day.
Wow.
Rob he used to have to kick me out. I used to do, I worked, like, I delivered pizza, like, late at night, 3-4 days a week, maybe. And the rest of the time I was practicing jiu-jitsu. And I was a blue belt. I was already submitting black belts. And, and it became an incredible obsession. And it made me realize, holy shit, if I work hard, I can accomplish. Even me. Even the guy that's fucking a piece of shit that goes to jail, that can't get his shit right, that can't stop doing drugs. Even me, if I work hard and I'm persistent, I accomplish things. And these things started turning into money for me. People wanted to learn from me. They wanted to pay me money to learn. And I was blown away by this. And my family, I was still broke. Don't get me wrong. My parents told me to get a job and to stop living this stupid dream that you have of being a champion jiu-jitsu artist. Like they would tell me how stupid it was, you know,
Right.
and I didn't care. I was like, you know what, Mom, I'd rather be broke and happy than sit in an office and do something I just don't give a shit about, you know? Yeah. And Rob, Rob stuck by me, encouraged me the whole time, would spend time with me, helped me with my jiu-jitsu. And, I ended up getting my purple belt at a record time. Purple belt is kind of the belt that signifies your expertise. Like you're an expert at this. And I got mine after a year and a half of training. I got my purple belt.
Wow.
He had to give it to me because I was competing against them and submitting all of them. So he had to give me that belt. and it was probably one of the happiest times of my life. And so I started winning a lot of competitions, a lot. Every time I competed, I won first place. I would win absolute divisions with $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 prizes. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but for jiu-jitsu, it's a lot.
Yeah. It's more than powerlifting.
Yeah. Exactly.
You get a trophy. Right. Sometimes you get a sword and maybe a gift card to Denny's.
Dude.
Yeah.
Straight up. Right. A gift card to Denny's or like wherever the nearest like buffet is.
And you almost like killed yourself. Like lifting 700 pounds.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just popped your eye.
Yeah. I mean, I wish that there was ways to get around. I wish that there was more money for these guys because some of these athletes work so hard to get there, and then they walk away with a grand. But I didn't care. I loved it. I absolutely loved the sport. And then one day, Rob comes to me and says, "Hey, do you want to work for me full time?" I was like, "Yeah." No, I want to keep delivering. I want to still stay at Pizza Hut. Of course I want to work.
No, yeah, exactly.
Let me get back to you. Let me think about it.
So I started running. I ran Gracie Tampa. Rob kind of took a break, and I ran the whole gym. Me by myself, and I started personal training. Personal training for martial arts.
Right.
And then I fought, and then I started training kickboxing, and I fought professional MMA. Shoot, I'm losing my train of thought. But, basically what happened was at one point, I talked about divine intervention. There's certain people that I think were placed in my life by a divine power.
Yeah.
I believe that. And, one day there was this guy that wanted to do private lessons with one of my colleagues, like another guy that teaches. And he was an anesthesiologist and he was only able to do them at 4 a.m. And, my buddy didn't want to do it with him. And I was like, well, how much are you charging him? He said, $40. I pull up and he goes, why don't you do one of the privates with me, with the guy, and then you can take over. I was like, okay. So I met up, I did the private lesson, and I saw the guy had a $250,000 BMW.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, he's an anesthesiologist.
I was like, yeah. So, he goes, I was like, yeah, I'd love to do these privates with you. I could do them. He's like, well, I want to do them 4 or 5 days a week. And I was like, okay, no problem, but I can't do them for $40. He says, how much? I was like, $175. Okay. Didn't even bat an eye.
Yeah.
I felt that I was worth that, especially getting up at 3:30.
Yeah, exactly. The time.
Yeah.
So, right there, boom, no problem. So I did these lessons with this guy for a whole year, and he would pay me even more when I brought people. It was the only time he can do them.
Wow.
And at this point, I'd received my brown belt, in 2011. And, I was winning all kinds of competitions, and I won the ADCC championships. I won, the ADCC trials, which is to get to the ADCC championships. I went and I won the heavyweight division. And, they flew me out to China to compete in the ADCC championships, which was amazing.
That's awesome.
It was like, imagine, if you love basketball so much and then you all of a sudden got in the NBA.
Yeah.
It's like, dream holy shit. Wow. Yeah, it was amazing. And what Rob said was true. He said, one day you'll make it to the ADCC championships, and I did.
Yeah, that must have been such an amazing moment to see that one sentence come to fruition.
Yeah, it was amazing. And at this point, I wanted to start my own gym, and in Brandon, there was no jiu-jitsu to speak of in Brandon. So I was making decent money, but it wasn't, nothing to where I can drop, 30, 40 grand. But all of a sudden, the guy I was doing privates with, he just wrote me a $20,000 check.
Wow.
To open your gym.
No way. That's so incredible. Wow. Amazing.
Yeah, I started crying when he did that.
That's incredible.
I cry a lot.
So do I. Danny doesn't cry. I cry for everything. Danny has no empathy.
Yeah. It's not my fault. It's my genes, man.
He literally lacks the gene in his DNA.
There's some gene. Now that we got the genetic testing done, like I have this gene that makes me lack empathy, but I'm empathetic, sort of.
You seem like a super empathetic guy. You seem like really at least sympathetic.
Listen to the man. Okay. Listen to the man.
Okay. But so anyway, this is actually a crazy story. I found $20,000 is not really a lot of money. It is enough, but it wasn't like I had endless, cash flow to open this place.
Exactly.
So I found this little spot like in Brandon, right where like the hospital is.
Yeah.
Like Brandon Hospital, and then it's a very high traffic area.
Oh yeah, that's where I did Muay Thai. That's where I did Muay Thai.
Yeah.
And like those little buildings. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, this is like in the strip, it was a storefront, and
it's like right behind. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I got a place that was 1,200 square feet. I was like, all right, I could have, and it was like expensive. And I was like, all right, I'll start here and hopefully I can grow from here.
Yeah.
I was 2 days away from signing the lease. And back working at Gracie Tampa, I used to teach this young man named David Kainis. And I love this kid. And he was a little savage, and I used to train him. And his parents would come watching every day. And his dad was a judo expert. So he sent David to learn judo in Riverview.
Okay.
There was this couple that one of them was from Japan, and they loved judo. So they sponsored this judo Olympian to come run a gym. They bought this building. They turned it into a judo place, even put an apartment inside this building for the guy to live in.
Wow.
And, apparently he screwed them over somehow. He was acting entitled. And, so Blanca, David's mother, knew I was looking for a spot, and she called me and said, "Hey, this is building in Riverview available.
Wow.
You should check it out." I was like, "Well, I'm about to sign this lease tomorrow." She goes, "Well, go check it out." So I go check it out. I walk in. There's a little lobby to the right. There was a full apartment with everything: washer, dryer, bathroom, kitchen, everything. To the left was a full mat with the mat room, and this place was, and then if you went straight ahead, it was the office. And I was like, wow, this place is great. That's perfect, but I'm not going to be able to afford it. And I was like, well, how much? And they go, well, we want to help you out, so we'll do it for $900 a month.
Wow, man. Are you kidding me?
I was like,
wow, that's
again, I went home and cried.
Everything was working.
It was like, things were going my way. And within a month, I had 120 students.
Wow.
All paying $150 a month.
Amazing.
And I was an ADCC veteran, and I ended up meeting my wife there. She came in and signed up her son. She rode in on a motorcycle with her 10-year-old on the back of it. And I was like, damn, this hot chick drives a motorcycle. And
that's awesome.
Ended up was with her for a year, got married a year later. Now we have 2 beautiful kids. And my parents were in shock when I was able to do it.
Yeah.
And
I did it. You're like,
yeah. Right. Well, but so many lessons to be learned there. Like there was so much in that time. I came from a guy that I didn't know how to live.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how, to someone that I feel like I accomplished something great. For me, at least, it's great.
Well, I wanted to just highlight this, man, because, I think people don't understand and we try to highlight this for children, the importance of boosting your child's self-esteem. And it's not, do not get me wrong.
Not to be cheesy.
It's not, and it's not to tell them that they're the best. That is not what we are saying.
If you're not the best, you're not.
But you have to be honest with your child. If your child is trying to do jujitsu, for instance, and it's 2 years in and they still have 2 left feet and they don't know how to do things, you know, you have to tell them you're not that good at this. You need work, you know, but to build your child's self-esteem is to put them in positions where they're challenged, and then recognizing them when they step up to the occasion, where you say, look how hard you worked, look at what you did. And building their self-esteem has nothing to do with telling them you're the best. No, it's about look at what happens when you work hard. Look at what happens when you
work hard.
Yeah, you follow through with things, you delay that gratification. And that's what jiu-jitsu did for you at a later age. And this is why we have our kids with you. And I just wanted to ask you, like, you know, what would you say to parents who are trying to figure out where they're going to put their kids for activities? Why would jiu-jitsu be better than other sports for developing kids?
Well, sometimes, you know, like soccer is big with kids. And the reason why is because any kid can do it. I mean, if you suck at it, you just stand there on the field, you know, and that's why a lot of parents put them in kids. But obviously jiu-jitsu and kickboxing is what we teach the kids, and it's a challenging thing. It's incredibly challenging. It is. And I always tell parents, I tell them this, I say, look, your kid is naturally a quitter. You know, they're going to want to quit when things get difficult.
Yes.
You know, and it's our job as parents to tell them no and say, no, you have to give this a much harder try than you think. Even though you don't want to do this, even though you don't want to go today, you have to go anyway.
Yeah.
And what happens, and then I tell them, you know, your kid is going to go in there and they're going to get humbled, right? Your kid's going to go up against another kid who has a lot more experience, and they're going to get submitted. What's great about jiu-jitsu, though, is you can train it at 100% intensity and not get hurt. So you're a new kid, you go up against, you know, kid that's been there longer, you get taken down, you get your guard passed, you get arm barred, you have to tap out, you know, you get choked from the back. And I tell them, like, your kid is going to get angry about that. Their emotions are going to flare up, and they're going to attack that kid even harder to try to win. And they're going to get submitted even faster. And then they're going to get even madder. And then they're going to attack the kid even harder emotionally. And then they're going to get tapped even faster than that. And then your kid is going to realize, wait a minute, every time I come at this kid with emotion, I lose.
Yes.
You know, every time I do it, and they are going to learn how to take those emotions, right? The emotions that would cause me as a kid to do drugs, those same emotions. And they're going to learn how to put it aside and put a pin in it and operate mechanically.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
And then they're going to see success. And that's the model that we want for our life, for anything. Your kids, you know, when they get older, they're going to go into a job interview and they're going to be nervous and they're going to be emotional and they're going to know how to say, okay, I have to put that aside right now because I have to perform.
Yes. That's
and
so good.
That's why martial arts is such a powerful thing for kids. I've seen kids come in that are introverts, that are shy, that don't have self-esteem. And, you know, through good parenting, the parents kind of make them stay the course. And now they're kids that have great grades. They're outgoing. They're not afraid to speak to adults, but respectfully. And, they have purpose and they have meaning and they become amazing adults. They really do. I can't stress enough how important it is to put your kid in a combat sport.
Yeah.
You know,
and I love how you talk about it too, because like you mentioned yesterday when we were talking about, like, it's like this big puzzle that you're constantly trying to, once you start to realize that it's this big puzzle, you're a little bit more detached from it. Obviously you're still passionate about it, but you're like, well, the pieces aren't fitting right now. Something I'm doing is wrong. And obviously the school has to be an environment where that happens. And that's one thing where, you know, we want to encourage people to do jiu-jitsu, but we also want them to find the right place. Cause I'm sure you agree that there's a lot of places that are not doing the right thing and teaching the right thing. And, you know, you do things that you say that I love, you know, and it's pretty much at the beginning of every children's class, you'll hear them say, tap before it hurts. And you know, things like that. And then the other thing is you have this real focus on the culture where people are 80% of the time competing against someone they can beat so that they can actually develop the skill. And then maybe 20% of the time they're competing against someone who's better than them. But like, that's what I told you. My experience, you know, 15 years ago, whatever, was 2 months of me trying to keep myself from being submitted. And how was I supposed to develop a skill that way?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing is if you're constantly rolling with people that beat you up, how are you ever going to get good at locking in submission holds? Yeah. You have to do it against people that you're better than. And, that's how you develop a skill. And that just comes with, you know, I actually trained this for a long time, and jiu-jitsu is just like, for me, it's like breathing. It's my Zen place. When I'm there competing against someone who's trying to kill me, it's Zen.
It's like a meditation.
Yeah. If there's something going on in my life, if you know, things aren't great with, you know, whatever, the marriage, the kids, the life, I go to jiu-jitsu, and I go against 10 guys in a row, and, you know, that's my meditation. I feel amazing afterwards. You know, I hate now how parents want to deny that for their children.
Yeah, you're looking at it the right way, because they don't see it that way. They don't see that they're denying their child of something really special.
Yeah.
So, long story short, jiu-jitsu changed my life. Jiu-jitsu and Rob Kahn, and, you know, the experiences that I've seen through this sport have shaped the way I view life 100%.
I love that. Let me ask you real quick, because I have so many women followers, and I also listen to a lot of true crime. You told us kind of a crazy story about a woman who with you. And so can you tell us maybe that a little bit, like kind of the short version of the story, and then like why it's important for women to do jiu-jitsu? Because I'm even maybe gonna find the time to hop on board. Just, I mean, it kind of sucks, but you do walk around as a woman just sometimes with this sense of you're just not safe no matter what, because you're not, if anyone did want to, they could attack you. Like, and so what's the importance of that, and what have you seen with the women you've trained?
Sure. Well, the great thing about Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and MMA is you learn how to defend yourself and fight defensively and offensively from any and all positions. And, martial arts wasn't always like that in this country. You know, we used to be, before UFC 1, everybody thought Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee was what martial arts was, but that was just TV stuff, you know? Yeah. I mean, Chuck Norris was a karate champion, but it was very limited, you know, learning Taekwondo, learning these. There's good aspects of them, but in general, you can't be a complete fighter if all you know is Taekwondo, you know? So, because I'll take a female black belt in Taekwondo, and pick her up and put her on her back, and there's no more Taekwondo.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, it's true. We had a girl who was, you know, higher level with us, and she was a bartender in Ybor, and she gets out of, the bar. Walks to her car, it's like 2 a.m. and a guy hits her over the head, puts her in her own trunk, takes her keys, and starts driving around smoking crack all night, and or meth. I don't know, either way. But she was in that trunk for hours and hours and hours, and finally he takes her out of the trunk, puts her on her back, and tries to take her pants off, and he got right into her guard. And
she's like, perfect.
Yeah. So she puts him in a triangle choke. Elbows him in the face until all the bones in his face were broken, and puts him unconscious. Takes mount position, calls the police, and every time he woke up, she put him back unconscious. This is a large man on crack.
Wow.
And, And, you know, long story short, the cops came and she survived, and it saved her life. That guy was going to rape and kill her.
Wow. Yeah.
So that I can't stress enough how important it is for women to know this art. I mean, it's incredibly empowering if you learn how to do this, because it's all about leverage. It's not about being strong. And it's about our large muscle groups attacking our opponent's small muscle groups. An arm bar. I don't care how strong you are. You know, it doesn't matter if I put you in an arm bar. You can't curl the amount of pressure that I'm going to put on your elbow joint.
You got the weight of your whole hip.
So that's in essence what jiu-jitsu is. Using our large muscle groups against our opponent's small muscle groups and finding the pathways there. And we want a straight line from point A to B. And this is what I teach, and it helps women in a huge way. I mean, if you put your daughter in this, you're not going to have to worry about her in college, you know, with some asshole, you know, drunk at a party that wants to take advantage. She's going to think that's funny. And she's just gonna be able to manipulate him positionally. Right. You know? So you know, for my daughter will be doing it as soon as she's, you know, she just turned 3, but as soon as she's, you know, can follow directions, she will be doing jiu-jitsu.
Oh, I'm sure.
You know, that doesn't mean she doesn't need to be a champion, a world champion. I'm not that kind of a parent that, you know, some of these parents, and, you know, I don't judge, but they want their kid to be an MMA fighter, to be the champion. You know, I don't know that I'm going to go that route.
Yeah, it's got to come from them.
Yeah,
that part of
but
it.
That's the big,
right. The rule in my house will be you need to train how to defend yourself in this world of people that might want to hurt you. Yeah. How could you not? Yeah. How could you not do that for your children?
It's true.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like any other decision that you have to make, a difficult decision where, you know, you feel bad because it's your baby, but then at the same time you realize that you know better than them and that they are going to reap benefits that they're not yet aware of. They're not aware of the benefits that they're going to reap.
I've already seen such a huge change in my kids.
my gosh, man. It's only been 3 weeks. What is it? 3 weeks a month?
Wow.
My little one, because we've been really good about taking him 4 days a week. Like just in his activity level, it's gone way up. And he has like some, like he can have mood issues. He's more depressed like me. And he's just been in a better mood. And I know how that feels. Like I know when you get those endorphins flowing, you're just, you know, you're moving your body. Like it just feels good, you know? So.
You're living this life. You're not just a sedentary person.
Exactly.
You're doing stuff. These are, you know, we as human beings, we want to be rough with each other, especially at a young age. Like that shouldn't be, shouldn't be discouraged.
That's actually the best thing you can do, because these boys, you know, they're like, you know, it's just like any other puppy. They bite each other to make sure that, you know, to see how strong they can bite, or, you know, and channeling that in a constructive way in an environment where there are many adults, there are many other kids who are more advanced, who are teaching them. And you know, that's the best thing you could do. And that actually, we're running a little bit long. So I wanted to, because your school, man, I'm telling you, this is why I wanted you to be on, is it's a model, in my opinion. I'm not a jiu-jitsu expert, but just from what I've seen, bringing him from a different school where he was doing different martial arts and coming here specifically to your school, is that there is so much attention from the coaches. There's sternness, but at the same time loving, you know, so when they're not paying attention, they're going to have to do push-ups, but at the same time, they are being like loved on and given that and being encouraged. So what would you say to someone who after this is just like, holy crap, I got to sign up. I got to sign myself up. I got to sign my kids up. What should they be looking for? Like in a good jiu-jitsu school, so that we could give money to the good schools and so that the bad schools can just go away.
Right. Well, you always want to make sure that the lineage is solid.
Okay. So when going back all the way up to.
Yeah. So there are people out there that are complete con artists. If you ask someone where they got their black belt from and they say more than one person's name, they're full of shit.
Oh yeah.
You know, because they'll be, I got it from a guy who can't remember his name, but then he said that I was going to get it from this guy, but that guy didn't come through. So I ended up getting it from this guy. I can't remember his. And you get these crazy, like, all right, you're full of shit stories. Yeah. There is a red
Yeah, that's
so right away they should say somebody reputable, because this is a relatively new sport. So it's not like karate where you say, once you get your black belt, and they say Master Lee, and you're like, oh, well, who the hell is that? Some Asian guy, you know? But this is pretty, this is legit, and it takes an incredible amount of hard work to get to a black belt, you know? So right away you want to make sure the lineage is solid. You also want to make sure that the vibe is positive inside the place, you know, and you can sense that right off the bat. Some instructors, you know, even though they're skilled, they may not give a shit about the kids really. Some of the schools are in position to just train adult athletes, and that's it. Which is funny because I kind of got into it in that at first I got into it for that. Like, I just want to train high level athletes. And then, you know, once I had kids, and now it's just the greatest thing for me. The purpose for this now is more seeing these kids progress as people.
I can tell when you talk about the kids, and whether it's on the podcast or offline, I could tell that's something that you really care about. Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to make sure that's in place. You also want to make sure it's not too cheap, you know, because sometimes you'll go to a place where they're just kind of giving it away. And what happens when you do that as a business owner, when you run a business and you just give things away super cheap all the time, it loses its value.
Of course, you know.
Agree.
Yeah, how am I going to be invested fully if I'm not? For me to be like, okay, I need to be on top of my stuff because
same thing with like coaching. Like if someone pays you not that much,
I don't charge. I don't charge. I charge super cheap for you know what my friends tell me, like who also coach, but I still like it's not cheap, you know, because if it's cheap, they don't. You're right. They're not invested.
And neither are you.
They're not invested.
The student is not invested.
Exactly. And neither is the coach, and that's a big deal. Oh, you do this for free. You paid me $20 a month. Why should I give you the time of day? But no, every single student in there pays me a significant amount of money, and my job is to give them their money's worth, and I go above and beyond to do that.
That's good.
You know, and that's another thing you want to look for in a school is that you also want to make sure that they're giving you the whole game. You know, we teach the kids how to strike, you know, because even though they may not look like Muhammad Ali out there in the kids class, they got headgear on, they're getting punches thrown at them regularly. Yeah. So when they get in the schoolyard and a bully wants
the first day he was there, like there was like no waiting, which I absolutely loved. I thought that was great.
Right.
Like get in there.
Well, you know, if they're getting punches thrown at them on a regular basis, then when the bully comes up to them in the schoolyard and starts throwing punches, I'm here all the time. No big deal. I'm going to shoot a double leg on you, put you on your ass, pass your guard, mount you, and hold you here until the teacher comes.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. Perfect.
And it's no big deal because when you know jiu-jitsu and you get on the ground with somebody that doesn't,
forget it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're fucked. They're completely fucked.
Like a fish out of water for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's harder for them in class. Class is harder for them than that.
I see it with Desmond. Yeah. And I'll be doing it soon. Yeah. Flopping around like a dead fish.
Yeah, man, it's a beautiful art. It really is, and it's amazing. I'm so glad I found it, and I'm so glad I'm able to give it back to families. You know, especially, and I say families now. You know, maybe 5 years ago I would have said like, you know, I get to give it back to these athletes who are going to go win the championships. But for me, like, it's all about the families now. It's all about improving their quality of life. You know, as an entire family.
I love it.
And that's basically it.
Well, dude, we really appreciate it. But before we let you go, we want, you know, where can people find you? Where your social media and website?
Okay, so at Gracie Brandon Jiu Jitsu, the Instagram.
Okay.
And then GracieBrandon.net. Just go to that website, put your name, phone number, and address in there, or name, phone number, email, and we'll call you back. We'll get you in, come in for a free trial and see how you like it. And from there, we'll turn you into a jiu-jitsu killer.
Perfect. Love it, man. And we're going to put all of this, we'll put it on the show notes to make it easier for everyone to find. So we'll put links to all of this.
Awesome. Awesome. I appreciate that so much. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Oh,
Thank
it's
you
our
so
pleasure,
much
man.
for being
We'll
on
see you in 20 minutes.
We'll see you in 10 minutes.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, man. Take care.
Thanks so much, Robby.
All right. Take it easy. You got it. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
Bye.